Welcome to Liberty FM, the podcast dedicated to all things New York Liberty. I'm Felicia, and I'm joined by my co-host and husband, Francois. We're on to Game 4, where the Liberty face off against the Seattle Storm. This was not a pretty game, but our Liberty got the win, beating the Storm 74-63. The Liberty also improved to 4-0 for the first time in 17 years. It's still a great start to the season, and we're sure a few adjustments will be made as it progresses. Francois, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. And yeah, like you said, it wasn't a pretty game, but the Liberty got the job done. And I think what was important was the defense. Sandy Brandello, before the game, when she was talking about the team's identity, said they've got 1 year of experience now in forging that identity. They want to be tough, just bring the toughness at both ends of the floor, but particularly on the defensive end. And where we could be aggressive, we could be versatile. And I think that, in a game where the field goal percentage, and particularly the three-pointers, were not important for the Liberty. They were able to find other ways to win the game, and defense won that game.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that, as the season has begun, I would say their defense has definitely picked up. And that just comes with knowing each other, playing together, having that continuity from last year, still having the same players, that now they know how to play together. And you just saw that on defense. They were the aggressors. They were pushing the pace. Yeah, you may have some stumbles here and there, but they definitely improved their defense all around. I have to say, again, I know for some teams, they may pick on people like Sabrina or Vandersloot. But I have to say, in this game, Sabrina was tough. And, you got to give it to her for just putting that out there. Because, we all know that Benijah Laney Hamilton and JJ and Stewie, they're going to do their thing on defense as well. We know that they're tough on defense. But, we always kind of said last year that, Sloot and Sabrina, they're going to have to kind of step up in that department. And they're definitely doing that. I think more so Sabrina, just with how much she is being the aggressor. She is not backing down. She's had a couple steals in some games, blocks. And so I'm just really proud to see her just go out there and just play tough. And offensively, she's also just stepped up her game as well. Her passing is elite. I have to give it.
It was how many no-look passes did she have in this game? Maybe 3 or something?
I think she had 2 or 3, but she's definitely had a couple in each game. And that comes with knowing where your teammates are going to be. And that comes with playing together consistently, being together. You're not on a new team. You don't have to figure, where your team, she knows where Stewie is going to be. She knows where JJ will be, and she is getting them the ball. Obviously, she can only do that so much in a game. You can't always do that because teams will start to pick that apart. But her no-look passing is elite. I give that to her. And just getting players open, the way that she's facilitating out there, it's just really great to see. And that, again, comes with them having that first year together, and now everyone knowing their roles, knowing where they should be. It's just a thing of beauty to watch them all come together now.
Well, we wanted some indication about how, well the Liberty were going to do on defense, especially perimeter defense against a team with such high caliber players like Drew Lloyd and Skylar Diggins-Smith. And they did really well. Now, we have to also remember that Seattle were playing back-to-back, so there was some fatigue. Nneka Ogwumike was not playing tonight, and Nika Mule, unfortunately, still has some visa issues, so she hasn't been able to play so far this season for Seattle, which would have, offered a little, backup point guard and defense as well. So you have to keep that in mind. But Sabrina, all-around player tonight, defensively, she's not a liability anymore. We were, sort of worried about her last year, and the Aces, try to expose her and Sloot, but she really worked this offseason, and it shows, and it's incredible. Sandy Brandello, after the game gave her props. She said that the evolution of Sabrina as a player, how she can help this team. She noticed that even the Liberty were tired because they had played Saturday as well. 4 games in 7 days to start the season. But she have to say something that she's really proud of her defense and it's been showing. So for even Brandello to give you props, that means something, and that means that she's seeing the results that Sabrina put in the off season. So that was great to see. But we definitely needed that spark from Sabrina on offense. I felt like in the first quarter, the New York Liberty were moving the ball pretty well and kind of like try to have a fast pace. But then the second quarter, and the score was 9-9 in the second quarter.
It all sort of just died in the second quarter. It was like no one. It was. I think we were yelling. Did someone tighten the rim? Like what happened? Every shot was just. I mean, on both sides. For Seattle and for New York, every shot that went up. I mean, people had open looks and barely anything was making it down. You saw one shot go halfway down for Jonquel Jones and rim out, and it was just like, oh my goodness, is anyone going to score more than 9 points in this game?
Yeah, I mean, they were 41% from the fields, 13% at the 3-point line, 13%.
And it's not like they had good looks.
They had open shots. Mm-hmm. And, the Liberty have always been one of the best 3-point shooting team in the league, whether it was this season and, a little bit this season as well, especially against Indiana. But tonight, the shots were not getting in. And like you said, they had open shots. But Sabrina was the force of that team. And she really felt like when the team needed it, she had that extra energy.
She pushed the pace for sure.
Pushed the pace. And what we've been seeing all season long so far, only 4 games, but when the shots are not getting in, she finds a way to score. And she's been relentless attacking the basket.
Yeah, I love this part of her game.
She listened to you. She definitely listened to you.
I don't know that she listened to me, but I'm very glad that she is attacking the basket.
You've been saying it all season long last year.
Yeah, that I need her to attack. And she's doing that. I mean, listen, for Sabrina, when you think about it, in just her short run in the WNBA, it's only been a few years. Her first year was in the bubble.
Yeah. But she only played 3 games because she got that serious ankle injury.
Yeah. Her second year, she still had sort of an injury. Like, she had another injury that, so she was kind of in and out that year. And by last year was when she was fully healthy. And I think at that point, we're now starting to see it build off of a healthy Sabrina Ionescu. Like, she's adding to her game. She's going to be a monster down the road. I mean, as she keeps adding to her game, she's just going to become that player, that I would say Kobe-esque player. Just because she's adding so much to her game, she knows the weaknesses and she's going to make sure that they become a strength. She's going to make sure that, okay, if I'm weak on defense, I need to work on that. I need to be better at defense so that people don't pick me apart. And she's doing that. I'm not going to be just this 3-point specialist. She's in her bag with her 3-pointers when she can be, but she can also drive to the basket. She also has a floater, mid-range shot. She is becoming that all-around player. And it's just great to see because now teams can't just sit at the 3-point line on her. Like, she'll take off and, she'll find her way to the rim. So it's really, really amazing to see.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I think it was 2 years ago when Skylar Diggins-Smith, was playing, last season, what became a last season with the Phoenix Mercury before a pregnancy. And I remember when they came to the Barclays and she was unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of worried about Sabrina being targeted and stuff like that. Moving, forwards 2 years later, it's been amazing to see the growth of Sabrina. Now, obviously, Skylar is, still trying to get a rhythm after not playing for a year, and she'll definitely get to that level that we're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. But it was nice to see how in 2 years things have changed,
Yeah.
So that was great to see. And Sabrina also brings the energy with the crowd.
Yeah.
She got so passionate after
That three.
what was the only free of the game for her. But it was at a time where, the game was a little flat, and she brought that energy with the crowd, and Ellie was into it as well. And she's that kind of player. She has that personality, and there was now to come to think about it as well. In the New York Liberty social media, they posted a video after the game against the Indiana Fever where she was mic'd up, and that's a side that we haven't necessarily seen before, or maybe was there but we didn't know that about her. But how encouraging she was to her teammates, always like praising them, finding something positive they did. And sometimes I'm making the mistake of reading things on Twitter, or so should I call it X or whatever, and then the amount of negative comments. And it's like, oh, it's almost as if people know better, or that, they could do what she does, which clearly is not, otherwise you wouldn't be typing it online. But so many negative things, and then you see, the video and her leadership, and, her stats, and how she does on the court. She's an amazing player.
I think people just love, unfortunately, within the social media realm, as we just seen bits and pieces, not just with the Liberty, but I think just around just sports in general. People love the toxicity and negativity. It feeds the beast almost. And unfortunately, she's not the only player out there that people just love to hate on for some reason. And she's a great player, and I think she's gonna just continue to improve and get better. And a lot of the comments I think are unfair. I think a lot of the comments that are out there, a lot of us know none of the people making these comments could ever take Sabrina on one-on-one anyway. Sure. So,
clearly not.
People are just gonna comment, and I think a lot of that stuff you gotta just let it ride or ignore sometimes, because it will mess with your mental if you were to
definitely
do a deep dive into all the crazy comments that are out there, especially about her. But she's improved her game. I'm proud of her. I'm glad she's on the Liberty. I'm glad she's that force for us on the Liberty, along with JJ and Stewie, Slew, Benijah. It was an all-around effort tonight. And, yes, the second quarter didn't go that well. It was stagnant for both teams. But then, at the half, they all got back together, regrouped, and came out for the second half, and everyone did much better at that point.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned JJ. She's the second player that I actually wanted to mention in this game. Once again, an impressive performance for Jonquel Jones. And I think she, got a record, a WNBA record once again. And she has become the first player, or the fastest player in history with 2,000 rebounds and 250 threes.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Congrats, JJ.
Congrats, JJ. Tremendous achievement. And she's a unique player. A center that can shoot threes, that is very versatile, had a mid-range, and defensively, my God.
Her blocks.
Woo! She had a couple of blocks. Ezzy Magabor, Mercedes, I think, as well. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. JJ is on such a high right now, top shape. Obviously, the season in China did wonders for her, and in the paint, you have to count with her, and she offers a different option because now the Liberty knows how to play with her. Yeah. Even though at times in this game there were a couple of times where it kind of was reminiscent of the first part of last season where they were kind of struggling to play with her. But when they give her the ball on the inside, she cannot be stopped. And defensively, she offers so many options. It's a little bit like, we watched the game Minnesota against Denver last night, with Rudy Gobert, who's been Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA, where you won't necessarily see, like, that on the stats. But because of their presence in the paint, Jonquel Jones is very similar. Like, she has such a good timing that it would deter sometimes the guards to get in there. And if sometimes they kind of forget that JJ is in there, she comes out of nowhere and bam, like give you a great block. No, I really enjoy Jonquel Jones' performance tonight.
But she's also a better shooter than Gobert.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry if I made an NBA comparison. Jonquel Jones is unique. There's no other player like her. So yeah, thank you, Felicia, for reminding me of that. But what did you make of Jonquel Jones' performance tonight?
I mean, it's another, dominant and powerful performance. I think, JJ definitely, she feeds off the crowd. She sees what's out there. She sees what's written about her sometimes, and she could take some stuff personally. And she wants to improve and improve every day and be the aggressor, be the offensive powerhouse. That's the one thing I love about JJ is that if you get her the ball inside, she's either going to make that basket or provoke a foul. She's rarely losing the ball for any reason. I mean, you literally have to fight the ball out of her hands. And that's the great thing about having such a powerhouse in the paint, that you can get her that ball. If you get her in good rhythm, she's likely going to make that shot or provoke a foul, which will send her to the line. So either way, it's money for JJ. And I think that is just a fantastic thing. And defensively, what can you say?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because we had mentioned that in the previous podcast. That was something that we had noticed, like how good JJ was in the switching and how ability to defend guards.
Yeah,
particularly,
she's quick. She's gotten faster.
Particularly against Kelsey Mitchell, who's one of the fastest guards in the league, and she did tremendously. And when I was reading, post-game comments from the players and from the coach after tonight's game, I thought that was something that was very interesting that she said about switching into guards. She said that last year, teams tried to put into actions as the big in the coverage, and I took that personally, which means that, other teams were trying to, favor that matchup on the switching when, you have no other choice but to go on the guard. And obviously, as a guard, you think that it's a favorable matchup because you have the quickness. But this year, I mean, it seems like she took it personally, and I don't think I remember any time where Jonquel got beaten by the guard in the switching. So that is something that is also very encouraging because once again, when you think about the defending champ, the Las Vegas Aces, that is something that if she's able to do against Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, that's gonna be tough.
But play soon enough.
But if you could offer a challenge against those guys, then sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be obviously with the Aces, it's gonna be a grudge match for sure. This is as they play each game, they're gonna get better. Each team's gonna get better because they're playing together. The continuity will continue to grow, trusting one another, trusting what you're doing on the floor. All of that will continue to grow, and they will just get better. But I also want to just mention and shout out the bench.
Yeah.
As
do you have any players in mind?
Of course. I gotta give props to Nyara Sabally. Like each game, she is just a dominant force. Like you sit JJ, she comes in, she's holding her own, and that is fantastic because I think last year sometimes when you had some of the bench players come in, they were okay, but they could also lose the lead sometimes if the Liberty had a lead, and so with Nyara, Kennedy Burke, Phoebish, KT, Kayla Thornton.
Yeah, Kayla.
She was also a monster on defense tonight. She was the aggressor. She was going after every ball that she could. And you got to just appreciate that, it's to have such a strong bench that is also defensive minded is really great because for the Liberty, I think that was always something we talked about last year is how much they need to work on their defense. You know, they have the offensive powerhouses, but you got to work on your defense to try to keep your lead, maintain your lead, or extend your lead. You don't want to just throw in people that can't hold the lead for you. And so, shout out to Kennedy Burke, Nyara Sabally, Kayla Thornton, Beavish. Who else played tonight? Even Marquisha Davis came in at the end. I would definitely like to see Marquisha Davis play a bit more, get more minutes. I know it's tough. Sandy would love to play all her bench players, but I think Davis should get a shot to play more, to come off the bench, maybe come in even in the second quarter or something. Like, she can't just come in. I don't want to see what happened last year when everybody was chanting, for Hanshu. Yeah. You know, it's like she comes in at the last 2 minutes of the game. And I don't think that's what she's doing with Marquisha Davis, but I think that with her coming in with just a little bit of minutes at the end, that doesn't really get her going. So.
It is hard for her to, show anything with, that little...
You don't have any time. You get like a minute or two, and that's it. And so it will be great to see her come in off the bench for someone.
Yeah, I would say that Kayla Foran, that was definitely her best game of the season so far, and Brandello really praised her for that. She said it's the next woman mentality. That it was the best game. She said she's a dog on defense, and that she could guard the handler and switching some more. I think that's a very underrated part of the game because, she's pretty well built and fairly tall, so you wouldn't necessarily imagine that she would defend on guards. You would probably imagine more like small forwards or forward. But today, there were times where she was on Drew Lloyd and, there was nothing that she couldn't handle. And she was also very active on offense. Very terrific game for Kayla Foran. And, last year, Jonathan Cobb knew what he was doing. He re-signed her fairly early on in the season, an extension contract for 2 years, because he knew that she could be a key element from the rotation. And you need a player like that that are unselfish and sacrifice for the team. So if Kayla Foran can continue like that, it would be awesome. Now move on to Sabally. You mentioned her. She's definitely one of my favorite players, obviously international players. So that's something that I like, and the journey is quite something. We know her talents. Her and her sister are super talented, but unfortunately she got impacted by a lot of knee injuries, and this year could be a breakout year for her. And last time we mentioned that Jonquel Jones praised her. Sandy Brandello also praised her before the game. If I look back at the quotes, she said that they're excited about Nyara's development and the opportunity to play, that they have full trust in her, that she's fully healthy now, that she's confident and that she has grown as a player, and that she has all the physical components and has a big heart. And we could see it the previous game against Indiana, her ability to defend, to be quick on the switching, and to attack the basket. And she did just that again against the Seattle Storm. A couple of nice blocks, a lot of rebounds as well. I really like her presence. And to be fair, she could be a way for Jonquel Jones to get some rest. I know that there was one time where Jonquel went on the bench and you could tell she was a little upset. I don't know if it was something that happened in the game.
Probably or because with the ref.
Yeah, probably with the ref. Let's not talk about that once again. Or, the fact that she wanted to stay on the court. But definitely having Sabally to replace her, we don't feel worried about, oh man, we're gonna pay for it as a result of Jonquel being on the bench. So that's definitely something that we're really happy to see, and hopefully that can continue that way.
Yeah, I think what's also helpful for Nyara is when Sabrina is in there with her.
Yeah,
because they also have this little 2-man game that's developing and has worked at times. And I think that will just grow and that will get better. I think as long as Sabrina's in there for at least some of her minutes, that will be helpful because Sabrina also trusts her and helps her to score.
Yeah.
And it opens the floor. So, and she's a great shot blocker too. So she's quick. She can get up and down the court. So I'm really proud of Nyara Sabally. I hope this is really her breakout year, and she's such a great addition to the Liberty.
Well, I mean that's the reason they let Stephanie Dawson go, because I think they trusted Nyara Sabally to do the job. They saw her developing in Europe, and they felt like, yeah, I think it's time to give her some playing time over Dawson, and there was no more space for Dawson to stay, I guess. So definitely looking forward to that. We haven't mentioned Breanna Stewart, the defending MVP, and it was very interesting because when you look at the stats, and sometimes, I mean, especially shooting from the freeze, it was kind of reminiscent of the playoff last year, and I felt like unlike last year, because last year when shots were not getting in, the team was kind of like stuck, and okay, what do we do now? Game plan A is give the ball to Stewie to bail us out, and then plan B, when they don't have a plan B or they don't know or they kind of panic, like they couldn't figure it out. Whereas this time around, like a shooting night wasn't particularly great tonight, but she did other things. She was tremendous on defense. She got steals, she got blocks. Rebounds. She had a double-double. She attacked the basket as well. She was on the receiving ends of great passes from Sabrina. So I didn't feel like, because of a shooting night, I didn't feel like it penalized the team or that she got too frustrated over it. Like, she just like, okay, let me do other things.
Yeah, I think, Stewie definitely did all the little things that, I mean, she still got 16 points. Her 3-point shot was off tonight. She was 0 for 6. But she's an all-around. That's why she's MVP. She can do other things. And she did that because she was definitely a force still on the court, defensively especially. I think she had a blocker to herself. But, and she had some steals as well. So, she will do all the little things to keep her team in the game, even if certain shots aren't going down. And, eventually it'll turn around. And she found, especially for her mid-range shot is still a thing of beauty. That was still going down for her.
Definitely.
It wasn't the perfect shooting night. I don't think it was a perfect shooting night for either team, but she was able to do all the little things. I think for the team, everybody was in double figures except Courtney Vandersloot. She had 0 points, but I think that partly to do because she got into foul trouble very early on in the game, and that just kind of, I think it just set everything off on the wrong foot for her tonight.
Yeah, what did you make of Courtney Vandersloot tonight? I mean, she had a great offensive performance against the Indiana Fever, but like today, a little sluggish at times. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be in foul troubles because you're out of rhythm. You have to stay on the bench for a little while.
Yeah.
But like, silly turnovers, like double dribble, traveling, passes that get intercepted. Like, it was very unusual from her.
Yeah, I mean, she only had, one shot attempt. I mean, she definitely tried to assist. She had 3 rebounds and 4 assists, but yeah, it was probably, I think, with the foul trouble is what probably threw her off a little bit. I think some of those fouls were just ticky-tacky fouls. I think one of the fouls, she definitely got all ball on that.
Once again, let's not talk about the ref,
but yeah, I think once a player gets into foul trouble, then you end up playing differently. You can't be just free to play your game because now you're thinking about, I can't foul out or, get called, so you're not you may not be as aggressive, and so I just think it was an off night for her. I think she'll be back. She'll be fine come Thursday. But I think everyone just sort of had an off night tonight, to be fair. I mean, everyone, even Seattle. I think Seattle for their team, they're just coming together. They're kind of like where the Liberty were last year. They have to figure this out with all these players that have now come in, excellent players, but again, they all have to kind of work together to figure this thing out before you really see it moving and going for them. And so right now it's just going to be sort of, I think, a stutter step for Seattle a little bit. They'll get a couple wins. They're going to have some losses, but I do think they'll figure it out. And yeah, for the Liberty, you chalk this one up to a slightly off night. It's fine. They'll get themselves back into rhythm and be ready for Thursday against Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, before we briefly talk about Chicago and the rest of the week for the Liberty, I was just looking at the schedule for the Liberty, and when you think about it, they play 4 games in 6 days. Their first game of the season was on the 14th of May. We're the 20th of May. So they play the Mystics, then 2 days later the Fever, then 2 days in Indiana, 2 days later home game against the Fever, and then 2 days later game against the Storm. The Storm as well, 4 games back to back. No charter flights just yet. I think officially it's starting tomorrow for everybody. So that's a lot. You have to remember that it's a condensed schedule because of the Olympics, so a lot of games are gonna happen. So it's not easy for the teams, and that's why having charter flights this year is so important, so that the product could be great on the court, and you don't have players that overwhelmed or overly tired. So you have to keep that in mind. But we got the win, and it's a great start of the season for the Liberty. A great way to brush off the end of last season with a 4-0 start. So Thursday, they will play against the Chicago Sky. We already briefly talked about it in the previous game. A revenge to take from the preseason game. Obviously, it's a different story. Quite excited actually to see the Chicago Sky with Witherspoon coming back to New York as a coach this time around. It's going to be interesting because she knows the New York Liberty very well. She got into the locker room a few times. She was rooting and supporting them quite a lot last year at the Barclays. So she knows those players and, how to try to handle. And you got a lot of players on the Chicago Sky team that have, a point to prove because it didn't work out in other teams. So they're hungry to prove that they have, their place in this league. And then Angel Reese. We cannot deny the popularity of that player. I was looking at, just out of curiosity, the SeatGeek and all those apps where they resell or sell tickets, and the 200 sections were way more open compared to tonight against the Seattle Storm. So we should expect a even bigger crowd than what we had tonight. How do you see this game playing on Thursday?
It could be a battle, but I think for this game, the 3 ball is going to be important. I think Angel, she could have a tough time if JJ and Stewie are down there, in the paint, because I think for her, she's gonna go up against some tough players, especially now that the Liberty are so aggressive. I think she'll get some shots, I'm sure, but I think it will be a tough game. I think it will definitely be a tough game, and it's going to be important for the 3 ball for sure.
Yeah, and another tough matchup with guards because you have Marina Mabry, Diamond DeShields, and Dana Evans. That could cause some serious troubles on defense, for the Liberty. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. And then the team that nobody talks about, that is kind of like going under the radar, but it's going to be a tough team to beat. It's going to be the Minnesota Lynx. The Liberty are facing them on Saturday. So that would be...
That's actually the matchup I want to see, because I think that, we know the Aces, Connecticut, we know those teams will be tough, but that's the matchup I want to see for sure, because I think... Yeah, people haven't talked too much about Minnesota, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. They are tough, and if you're not watching them, I think they're going to give a lot of these top teams a run for their money. I mean, Minnesota won it not that long ago. So, they definitely are going to come out, and they're definitely a strong team. So Saturday's matchup, I feel like, will be a tough one, but we'll see. That'll be the challenge.
We'll see. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to our podcast, as always. And great pleasure, and we're looking forward to those next two games this week. But as we always say, Felicia,
let's go Liberty!